Okay, let's dive into this, because we are talking about a massive legal showdown between a former US president and one of the biggest banks on the entire planet. And trust me, this isn't just about a closed account. This is a huge battle over money, politics, and really the nature of financial power itself.
And the price tag on this whole fight? A cool $5 billion. Yeah, you heard that right. A 5 with 9 zeros after it. A number like that is designed to get your attention, and it definitely got ours.
So that leads us right to the big question, doesn't it? What on earth could have happened to trigger a lawsuit of this size? Well, let's get into it and unpack all the details. So to really understand what's going on here, we've got to get the basic facts straight. Who are the key players and what is this argument really all about? Okay, so on one side, you've got Donald Trump and his companies. On the other, you have J.P. Morgan Chase and its famous CEO, Jamie Dimon. Now, the lawsuit was filed down in Florida, but the key events actually happened way back in February 2021, so right after the events of January 6th. That's when the bank decided to shut down several accounts linked to Trump. And the core of the lawsuit, an allegation that this wasn't a normal business decision, but was totally arbitrary and discriminatory. And this is where things get really interesting, because the two sides are telling completely different stories. Was this a political hit job, or was it just a big bank being careful and managing its risk? Now, check this out. This is language pulled right from the complaint itself. Trump's legal team is basically arguing that this had nothing to do with finances. They're claiming it was a purely political move, that J.P. Morgan was just caving to the political pressure of early 2021. But as you can imagine, J.P. Morgan fired right back with a pretty blunt denial. Their official line is that this had absolutely nothing to do with politics. They say when they close accounts, it's about managing legal and regulatory risk to the company, period. And this slide just lays out that disagreement perfectly. On one side, you have the claim, political discrimination, plain and simple, driven by the mood at the time. And on the other side, the defense, nope, this was just standard risk management, all about legal and regulatory concerns. It's really that classic question, was it about politics? Or was it just procedure? But here's the thing. This case is about so much more than just one person. It's become a real flashpoint for a much, much wider debate about a controversial practice that's known as debanking.
So what in the world is debanking? Well, think of it like this. It's when a bank suddenly decides to end its relationship with you, often with very little warning and sometimes with no clear reason why. And it's that lack of transparency that really fuels these accusations of unfairness.
And believe me, it's not just former presidents dealing with this. The practice affects entire industries. You look at cryptocurrency firms. They've been complaining for years about banks arbitrarily closing their accounts. It also hits other so-called high-risk sectors and a group of people known as politically exposed persons, which is just a fancy term for public officials and their families who get a lot more financial scrutiny. So, to really get why this all matters, we have to zoom out a bit, because this isn't just about Trump, and it isn't just about J.P. Morgan. It's about a much bigger picture that, honestly, affects all of us. Now here's where another critical layer gets added to the story. A recent report from the Cato Institute suggests that a lot of the time, these banks aren't just making these decisions in a bubble. They're actually responding to immense pressure from the government and trying to navigate these really vague regulations designed to de-risk the financial system. The rules that are meant to fight things like money laundering. And that is the crucial takeaway here. A bank's decision to close an account might have less to do with its own political feelings and more to do with its fear of getting punished by regulators. This huge system of de-risking, which was designed to stop financial crime, can end up having this unintended consequence of just cutting off entire groups, from crypto businesses to controversial politicians, from the banking system altogether. And all of this leaves us with a really fundamental question, one without an easy answer. Look, we all want banks to be responsible, to manage risk and to protect the financial system. But where do you draw the line? At what point does de-risking turn into just denying someone basic access to the economy? And at its core, that's what this $5 billion lawsuit is really trying to figure out.